Okay, I'm going to be using the, I'm going to use the X Loom, alright, but you don't have to use an X Loom for this pattern. I've just gotten to where I like the number of pegs that it has. It's got a wide variety of pegs. I'm going to be using the 5/8 inch gauge X Loom for doing this, a hood cowl, alright. I'm going to be using the parfait layers. Alright, and what I'm going to start off with is doing a chain cast. I'm going to be only using half the pegs, okay, on my X Loom. So I'm going to do a chain cast on because there's not really going to be any seaming to this, although you might think it should. Alright, so we're going to do a slip stitch here. Alright, we're going to send that slip stitch behind the peg and tighten. Okay, and the reason why you're doing a chain cast on is you'll be adding those as you go along for when you do the collar. Again, this is not going to be a seamed hood. And this hood may look easy, but it's actually not with the way that I'm basing this off of. It's all done flat and joined together, and there's a smooth spot around the back of the head. So we're going to be doing some short rowing. Alright. So you want to do a chain cast on, and then the other thing that you're going to be doing is you're going to be doing, no matter what, even if you are purling the row, you're going to knit the last stitch and slip the first stitch, because what you want to do is create a chain on the end of this garment so that you can easily add them back as you work. And you'll need your stitch markers for it to be able to see what you're doing. Okay, and you may want to go in and actually add stitch markers to your chain cast on, like we've done here too. Okay, because you're going to be adding the cast on back slowly, because everything is done flat, even the collar. So you know, everything's done flat. And we're going to have a fold back area too. So we're just going to chain cast on half the pegs, and if you want to be doing this on another loom, you could be doing this on the S Loom. I think you could probably do this on a universal. Let me give you the peg count. Okay, you want to cast on for 54 pegs. Alright, so do a chain cast on 54 pegs. We're going to be working back and forth. We're going to be working a garter stitch. We're going to be working flat. Alright, so go ahead and chain cast on 54 stitches, and then we will go from there. Okay, I have casted on 54 stitches, and that's half the X Loom. Alright, now what you want to do is you want to slip your first stitch, and you want to knit your way over. This is the start. This is your garter stitch. At this point, you want to start marking your slip stitches here on the end. You might want to mark all your chains for your cast on, because you'll be adding all these back, alright, as you go, because this is not going to be seamed. I find just doing it this way makes it easier, where your connecting areas have more stretch, and it's cleaner and more consistent. You can sew it. When I start adding chains back, you can sew it in these areas if you'd like, but in all honesty, I find that this is just going to be easier if I'm not having to sew it. Okay, so this is going to be row 1 of a 2-row set. If you know the garter stitch and you would like to progress on, I have you doing a total of 75 rows. Alright, so you're going to be doing 75 rows. You're going to need a row counter for this, okay? So this is going to be row 1, and the next row is going to be a purl row. That's going to be row 2. Remember to knit your last stitch, slip your first stitch, create that chain. If you've done a 10-stitch blanket, this is no problem for you, okay? So go ahead and if you know what you're doing, if you know the garter stitch, you know how to work back and forth, you know how to create that chain on the end, go ahead and you can pause the video and complete 75 rows, and then we'll come back and then I'll show you the short row section so that you have a curved area for the back of the head rather than a point, because that's the specialty to this hood. It's very rounded to the back of the head. And we're going to be short rowing on just one side. And the reason why this seems fairly large for the hood is you're going to have 15 pegs fold back, because this is a fold, and a fold attaches to the collar. Alright, so again, your first row is a knit, your second row is a purl, which is a garter stitch, and you'll be doing that for a total of 75 rows. Really the only section you really need to be keeping up with a stitch marker is one that you're going to be short rowing, and I'm most likely going to be short rowing this side. So if you wanted to add a stitch marker to that, that's fine. You don't have to add a stitch marker to the other side, mostly because this will be the edge that folds back. Okay, so we're going to slip that first stitch, and now we're going to start our purl. And I've just started this, so it's going to have its little kinks until it gets smoothly worked in. Okay, so we're going to slip that first stitch now, and so I can get in the camera. We're going to purl our way over to the other side. Now, remember, when you get to the last stitch, you're going to knit it. Alright, but this is the garter stitch. Okay. And you're going to do this for a total of 75 rows, and this is going to be row 2. And then we will be starting a short row series. And you're going to be short rowing just for a few. You don't have to do a whole lot. You're just trying to round out that edge so it doesn't have a sharp point to it to the back of the head. Alright. So this is row 2 of a 2-row set. Knit a row, purl a row, knit a row, purl a row, and on the purl row, always knit your last stitch and slip the first stitch. Alright, and that will give you the nice, beautiful chain that you can work with and make it easier when you start adding them back. Alright, and because I'm working with this parfait yarn, it's going to be a little trickier to see, so I'm definitely going to want to start marking those stitches at the end, but you only want to do one end. So decide which end you're going to do short rows on and make sure you keep stitch markering. So I'm going to be stitch markering this one all the time on the end so that I know where I'm adding back. Alright, so pause the video, get your 75 rows done, and when we come back we'll be ready to start a short row section with a nice curved area. Now if you want to make this a different size, what you want to do is you want to measure a little past the shoulder, over the top of the head, and over the shoulder again, and that is going to be your total number of rows, but you want to divide that by half so you know you're doing 15 inches before you start a short row section. Alright, and when you want to do a decision on how wide you need to make it, you'll need to wrap around the shoulders and do a measurement that way and divide that by half, because you'll have your fold back area. Alright, and that's going to be the width there, and you want your head to be able to fit over the turtleneck area, so what you want to do is measure around your head as your base for the turtleneck area, how many rows you're going to need to do, because the rows are going to be done flat rather than in the round. And then you're going to need to know how long your neck is and calculate for a fold down, which is a total of 8 inches for me, but that's some basics. I'll give that in the actual write-up, how you can calculate this for different sizes, but most likely this is probably going to fit anywhere from a young child to an adult just fine. Okay, so you can probably just make this as is, or you can try doing the same thing on a smaller gauge loom and it'll come out smaller as well. Alright, so go ahead, get that much done, and then we'll come back and I'll show you the short row section. Okay, At this point, you should have 75 rows, and one side should be marked. Okay? Now, we're going to do a set of wrap and turn for a total of 5 times on the end here. All right? And you're not going to need to put a stitch marker on that, okay? So what you want to do is, working over here, you're still slipping your first stitch, and you're going to purl your way over to just before your last peg, all right? And then you're going to wrap and turn and work your way back, all right? And we're still continuing with our garter stitch, all right? So go ahead and pause the video and get your way over to the other side. And I'll show you how to do the wrap and turn. Okay, we reached our other side, and we're going to purl the one. Alright, then what we're going to do, instead of knitting like we've been doing, we're going to wrap and turn that peg there. And we're going to knit our way over. Okay. And we're going to be doing this wrap and turn over 5 stitches. So this is going to be our first one, second, third, fourth, and fifth. So you're going to wrap and turn these 5 rows. So you're going to end up doing a total of 10 rows in order to get that many wraps and turns. Alright, so what you want to do is you want to pause the video and get just this side, not this side over here, just this side wrap and turn, because this is the back of the head. This is the crowning area, alright? So you want to pause the video and wrap and turn these 5 end stitches on this side only, and then when we come back we'll be ready to start increasing. Okay, so pause the video, get your wraps and turns done, and we'll come back and I'll show you how to increase and then start adding the other half of the hood back while you do the garter stitch on the other side. Okay, and what you'll see over here, you don't see it on this end, there's no wraps and turns on this end, but you will see 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. You can do a few more if you like, that's fine. At this point, I'm going to be adding those wraps and turns back in, but the most important part of what this does here is it puts a slight curve behind the head, and it doesn't have that sharp point. Okay, so it's more likely to sit with the head. Okay, so what you want to do is you want to purl your way back, and when you get to the end here, you're actually going to purl the first wrap and turn together. So you're going to purl the 2 together rather than knit. And you're only going to do the 1. Okay. So pause the video and get your purling to your first wrap and turn. So purl your way around and stop right here, where just before your first wrap and turn. So stop there. So purl your way around, and when we come back, I'll show you what you need to do next. Okay, as you can see, we stopped purling just before our first wrap and turn. What we want to do now is we want to actually purl those 2 stitches together. Alright, and shove down your stitches, and then you're going to slip that first stitch and knit your way back. Okay, so you're going to slip the first stitch, and you're going to knit your way back. Now, this is the process you're going to do when adding all these back on. You're going to knit your way over, then slip the first stitch, and then purl your way back. Purl these 2 together, the next wrap and turn, then slip it, knit your way back, slip the first stitch, purl your way over, purl these 2 together, knit your way back. Do that until you are here and ready to slip the stitch and work your way back. Okay, then we're going to start adding these stitch markers in. Okay, then that's when we're going to start adding in. So go ahead and pause the video and get to where your last purl 2 together is right here. Okay, and then we can be ready to start the next section, which is working your way down to the other side of the hood. And this is where you'll be adding in your stitch markers here. Okay, so pause the video, get all your wraps and turns back in, and add it back in, and then we'll come back and start showing you how to do the other half of the hood. Okay, we've done all our increases, and you'll see that there are no more wraps and turns left. So at this point, my working yarn is over here. At this point, what we want to do is we want to start adding back these stitch markers over here that we've had. We want to start adding these back as we work along. Okay. So what that means is you want to take your first stitch marker over here. You want to add it to. So you want to take it and you want to add it to the end peg. Alright. Then you take it off. Alright. You're going to do that from the next one down, the next one down. Okay. And you're going to do that until there's no more that you can add. Alright. So you just added that. And you have all these to add. And you're still doing the process of where you start over here and you purl your way over, and then you either knit the two together or purl the two together over here. Depends on what you want. If you want a chain look that goes down to the center of the back of the hood, then you'll do a knit two together. If you want it to be a smoother connection, then you'll want to purl the two together. Okay, so it's up to you how you want to do that. But at this point, you're going to be adding a chain over here every time you go to purl your way back. Okay, and then you're going to knit your way over. You're going to do this all the way down, okay, until you're ready to do your bind off. Continuing the process that you've already done here on this side. All you're doing now is adding the chains over here and knitting or purling the two together. It's entirely up to you. So at this point, go ahead and pause the video and complete the other half of the hood. Then we'll set up and start working the actual cowl area of the hood. Okay. So go ahead and pause the video and get the other half of the hood done, and we'll be back and work on binding off and setting up to start doing the cowl section. Okay, I have just completed the hood. As you can see, we have it attached through here. And what happens when you attach a chain one at a time, you see you have a really nice smooth connection. No seaming required. And I chose to purl the two together, but if you had chose to knit, it would be a clean chain. Either way, it's going to be a clean connection. Okay. Now at this point, what we want to do is we're ready to bind off. I just purled my last two together on this end, and I'm now ready to bind off. And what we're going to do is we're going to loosely bind off, because this bind off is going to be added back to a peg, because you're going to create a chain on this half. Alright, so loosely bind off, knit, take that chain, that stitch back one, toss the bottom loop over. Okay, so what you'll want to do is you'll want to bind off all the stitches all the way over, and then we'll be ready to start putting stitch markers in around our edges and do the fold back and everything, so that we can start doing the turtleneck area and or the cowl area, or whatever you want to call it. It's more like a turtleneck to me because it fits the neck cleaner, but that's what you want to do. So go ahead and pause the video, bind off loosely so that you can add at least half the chain back to the loom, back to the pegs, and then we will move on from there. Make sure you have your stitch markers ready. Alright, we'll go from there. Okay, I've done my bind off, and I know that this is my, I will try to keep this as much in screen as possible, but it is difficult. Now, if you use the 53, which I like usually a bigger hood, but you can do this on a 48 if you have a 5/8 inch purple loom, the Nifty Knitter, or the replica through Cindywood Looms. Alright, and you'll only want to do 10 pullbacks, which means you're going to count over 20 rather than 30. As you can see, I've done a little pre-pinning here. These are going to be going back on, and you'll notice I have a double section here, alright, and that's 15 stitch fold back. Alright, and I'm going to do the same thing on this side, and then I'm going to go in and mark every one of my chains. If you can see them on like a regular yarn that you're working on, you don't have to do this, but because I'm working on kind of a fuzzy yarn, I want to see what I'm doing. And so what you want to do is you want to take and you want to find your first chain, which is right here, and you want to count back 30. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. Take your stitch markers, get you one going, stick it through 1/2 of the chain. Then you want to take and make sure that we're folding back the same direction. You want to make sure you're folding back the same direction on both sides, alright? And it looks like I am. Make sure before you start working this, okay? Alright, and what you want to do is you want to find your first chain, which is right here. You're going to stick it through 1/2. You're only going to stick it through 1/2 of the chain. And really you're not going to see this connection, but you want it to be able to stretch. And that's the reason why I'm doing this. So you want to go to the next chain, stick it through 1/2, and then stick it through 1/2. And you want to do that all the way down to the base, okay? So you find your next chain, stick it through 1/2, and then stick it through 1/2. Okay, and this is your cast on section here. So it's going to be a little looser than the other side, which is your bind off section, okay? Which is what I did first. So here's my next chain right here, and then here's my next chain. You're going to connect them. And what you should have is, if you're doing 20, then you should have 10 stitches, 10 stitch markers in. And if you're doing this, you should have 15, okay? Because we're doing a fold back of 15. Alright, I'm trying to stay in camera as much as possible. And you're going to do this all the way down, and then you're going to put stitch markers in. And what that's going to do is going to make it easy when you start to add. Because we're actually not going to be starting on the end here. We're going to be starting in the middle. And the reason being is you are going to have somewhat of a seam. Alright. And the reason being is you have to have the back seam, and I don't want a seam showing. I want it hidden in behind this hood. Alright. So I'm going to explain how to do that. If you don't care and you want a seam in the front center, you do it from an edge. My suggestion would be to start back center and work your way around. Alright. Okay. Working our way towards the end. Again, it doesn't really matter which half, just so long as you get a half in there, because this really isn't going to be seen. Okay, getting there, and then we'll go back and count and make sure that we have 15, so that we know we got it right, because we want to even on both sides. Alright, I'm almost there. There and there, and then your last chains should be right beside each other. So, it should be right here. Okay, count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. And I got 15. So, we're good. Now, what that means is, here is your hood with the fold back. Okay? And when you go to attach it, it will not unfold. And it'll unfold up here unless you want to tack it down. but it will not unfold. All right. And what we're going to do is it's all going to go up inside. And you want to go ahead and pause the video, get the other side done the same way, and then go ahead and stitch marker all that. We're going to be starting center back, so we're probably going to be starting with this one here. Either way, we're going to be knitting flat, okay, because this is based off of a Russian design, okay, and we are transferring it to the loom. Alright, so what you want to do now is just go in, do the same thing on the other side, and then fill in and add stitch markers to all your chains at the bottom half. Now you can do this, it's going to be a little different if you chose to do the other way. You can do it either way. This is the cast on and the bind off, and because those ends are not always even, you by using them as your reattachment, you can make a really clean connection, and it's clean all the way around. It's the same all the way around your edging here, okay? So go ahead and pause the video, get your stitch markers added, and then we'll be ready to start on the cowl section or the turtleneck section, however you want to look at that. Okay, I've now got to the next section. Let's see if I can get this in screen a little better. Okay, and what we want to do is we're going to do 24 pegs for our collar. Okay, and we're going to do a chain cast on so it's easier to sew up at the end when we got to go and connect them. Okay, so what you want to do is you want to start off with a slip stitch. Okay, you're going to place that, you're going to wrap that around the back, and you're going to pull your working yarn through. And what I've done is I've marked off 24 pegs, okay, on here. Now, if you have a 48, because you don't have to do this on the X loom, you can do this on the 48 peg loom. You can just use 48 pegs, do the same number of rows, but only fold back 10 stitches, which you count back 20, and then you should have 10 stitch markers. So you can do this on the 48 5/8 inch gauge, and you can use half the pegs on the 48 peg for this. Okay, so I've gone ahead and I've marked out 24 pegs on my X, but again, you can do this on a regular loom. You don't have to do this on a X loom. I just find that this loom you can do anything on, so I don't have to pull out a whole bunch of different looms to do stuff. So alright, so you just want to do a chain cast on so that you have an easier time sewing up later, or you can add them back and do a Kitchener weave. But either way, you will have at least one seam when it comes to this. Okay. Okay, and then place your last stitch here. Now, you need to decide which side you want to constantly add chains from. Doesn't matter which way you do this, okay? You can constantly be adding on this side or this side, but you got to pick a side, okay? And whatever side that is, start with it, okay? And so what you want to do now is you want to find your center back so that your seam when you sew up doesn't show up in the center front. So if you get it close enough, that's fine. It doesn't have to be exact. So here's my center back, and I'm going to add my first chain on. Now decide how you want to do this. This is very difficult working with a camera in my way. Alright, so let me stick the hook through there. Alright, now what we want to do is we want to add it to our end peg over here, and because we're doing the same stitch patterning, we're doing a garter stitch, doesn't matter, you're going to be able to fold this around and do whatever with it, okay? Alright, so what I'm going to be doing is slipping that first peg over here, and knitting my way over. Okay, and then when you get here, if you want a smooth connection, what you'll want to do is you'll want to purl the 2 stitches together. Alright, then you're going to slip it, and then you're going to purl your way back the other direction. It doesn't really matter if you go in and you take this end stitch over here, and if you want to purl it you can, if you want to knit it you can. This is the top of your collar, so it doesn't really matter. It's not as picky as what we were doing earlier. Alright, so go ahead and purl your way back. You can knit it the direction you're used to, but either way you're going to have to go back and forth. Alright, once you get over here, you purl over here, then you want to be adding your next chain. So I'm going to stick this through. And you don't have to add the full chain, you can add just a half. Okay, just want to let you know that. Alright, and then what you can do is you add the chain back, and you're going to work this direction. Okay, and then once you hit this last one, what you're going to do is you're going to come all the way over to the other side. Because what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you pause the video, make your collar, and then when we get back we're going to close it up. Alright, once you get to the end of this side, you're going to go to the opposite side where the other fold is, and you're going to start from the end, and you're going to start adding it in. Okay, and then you're going to then be working your way back down to the center. Okay, so and obviously when you get to these you're going to make sure you're adding half the chain from each side, but it's as simple as that. So you purl your way over. You can either choose to slip or knit. I mean, you can knit the last stitch or whatever, but I'm probably just going to purl it, and then I'm going to slip it, and I'm going to knit my way back, purl these 2 together, purl my way over, and I'm going to continue this all the way around until I have no more chains to add or no more stitch markers that I have in place. Okay, so what you want to do is you want to pause the video and you want to get your collar done. Alright, and once you have it done, then I'm going to show you how to connect your sides. I may just go ahead and add the chain that I just casted on back to the stitches and then bind them off together, because you're not going to see it. It's going to be center back. You're not going to see it. Okay, so I'll show you that, but go ahead and pause the video, get your cowl, collar, turtleneck, whatever you want to call it, done, and then when we come back I'm going to show you how to close off the neckline, and then we're actually about done on this. Okay, so pause the video, get all that done, and then we'll be back to finish up. Okay, we finished our collar, as you can see, and again, it's not really mattering if you have your fold inside, because it's the same. It's going to be shoved up in, folded down, that kind of thing. Okay, so what we want to do, just make sure that it's not twisted. That's the thing, and of course it's not twisted. There it is. Okay, so if you don't want to be seaming this up, you could just bind off if you'd like, but I'd really like to not bother with a seam because this particular yarn does not do well with sewing. So what you want to do, I've stopped here. You want to find your first chain, put it on, and then you're going to E-wrap that. This is the end. Alright, then you're going to find your second chain, put it on, and then you can flatten it. Then you're going to take that stitch that you just did, back one, toss the bottom loop over, and move over. Find your next chain, which should be right here, add, knit the 2 stitches together, like that. Move the chain back, toss over, and move forward. You're doing a regular bind off. The only difference is you are adding a chain. Alright, you're adding a chain, you knit the 2 together, move the stitch back one, toss the bottom loop over, and move the stitch over one. Alright, And this is attaching both sides of the collar area together as you move along. Knit two together, take it back one, cross the bottom loop over, move it forward. Add the next chain. You may want to go in and add stitch markers to that so you can see it easier. It makes a difference. Okay, so what you want to do at this point is you want to bind your way off, and then you're going to weave your ends in, and then you're going to flip it inside out, and that is it. You're done. And that's how you make a hooded cowl. And I'll show what it looks like flipped right side out. Okay, so go ahead and pause the video and get yourself binded off and your two sides attached, and then I'll show you what it looks like folded right side out and what the completed garment is looking like. Okay, I have completed this. You have your bind off right here, and because it's going to be hidden, it's not really a big deal. Alright, now I've still got to weave in my ends. Alright, but I need to turn this right side out. Alright, and there's my fold back, and then what I want to do is fold this up in the middle. Okay, and then I want to fold it down, and this is your cowl. Okay, alright, so that is how you do it, and then you're going to put it on like that. You're going to slip it over your head just like that, and that is how you make a hooded cowl. Alright, and as you can see, that's how you do it seamlessly. That's some techniques to consider and everything like that. So that's it. That's how it's made. Alright, so I would suggest, if you're going to try this the first time, because you have a lot of connecting areas, to go ahead and start with a yarn that's a little bit simpler than this. This was the Parfait Layers. It comes with 459 yards, and you can see I still have a lot left, enough to make a couple of stuffed animals if I want, because it's soft. But my suggestion is start with a simpler yarn that you can easily see to make this to start off with. But as you can see, it's not too bad. It works up fairly quickly, and that's how you do it.